good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're meeting with me today. Um, Welcome to day 13 and 14. So in this video today, I just want to take a moment to I'm probably going to do two videos. Um, I've tried to think of what you guys have at home, and the only thing that I can imagine most homes have is crayons regarding color and how to handle that. And so I have stolen from my boys their box, which is full of different assorted crayons that they've just kind of mixed in here. Now, a couple of things that it's good to remember is that I'm kind of shooting for the lowest common denominator, which in this case would be crayon. Crayon has its limits. It is fun to experiment with, and it can be a little bit dangerous if you're not careful, especially when it comes to applying heat. Melting that wax in the air, you do need some ventilation. I'm not going to do any such thing as like melting or with a blow dryer or anything. I'm just going to draw. And blending can occur, but given that the binder for crayons is wax instead of oil or pastel, or the fact that it's not water-based, it doesn't blend as well, but it does blend. And so I just want to draw a little bit for a moment for you, so maybe you can pick up on some of the techniques. One thing that I'm doing is I'm applying a pretty light hand at first, and I want to build up. The reason I do that is because if I press too hard in the drawing, I'm applying too much wax to the surface at once with my one color choice. So what I want to show you is how to hatch and cross hatch and blend your colors strategically. And so I've got two drawings that I've kind of started with a base color, and I'm just going to stick with one for this video, and it's going to be a demonstration drawing that I've done for you before. So let me set up here where you can see the table. All right. Okay, so what I have here already is I've very light-handedly drawn side by side. These are horizontal marks. And as you can see, there's already some value gradation here. This edge is a little bit darker than this one, mainly because my starting point was here. But notice I'm not making marks that are simply random. I'm not just coloring one way and then another way and then another way and then another way to fill the space. I'm being very purposeful in my mark making, going side to side. Part of the reason for that is I'm trying to create the illusion of a flat road that is coming toward you. And also that illusion is supported by the use of the vanishing point. But the color I've used is straight black wax. And if I want to imagine and go ahead and picture this where there is a light source coming from over here, then I could do, if I wanted to, I could do a yellow sun coming over my horizon, which is going to be casting light this direction, right? So with that in mind, if I know light is coming from here, then I'm going to have a brighter portion on the road up top, and it's going to get cooler as it comes toward me. And the same thing is going to go for the grass on the horizon. Now, the thing is, the cooler area over here, I'm going to hit with a lot more blue. So I'm going to go ahead and take some blue, actually. I'll just grab one of these. And as light as here, I'm just going to put blue in the underlayer where I know the grass is going to be. And again, this is all with crayon. You might be using pastel, but I gather most people don't have pastels in their homes, so I'm sticking with what I think you might have. Now, I want you to see and understand, too, I'm using a very, very light hand. if I press harder, and do this sort of thing, that's going to be very, very difficult to blend on top of. And I'm wearing through my crayon unnecessarily quick. Okay. What I want to be able to do, let me get rid of those shards. What I want to be able to do is layer. So on top of this, then, what I can do and what I want to do is also add a touch of green, very, very lightly. And I'll get a little heavier with the green as we get down into this area. Now, this is wonderful because what you have is these gradations now. And I'm going to actually go over here and carefully put in some blue, but not very much, just right here. And then I'm going to focus on the use of green and making that transfer to the green. Now, all again, my concern here, my only concern, well, I'm going to go ahead and take some green into this area very, very lightly. And I want to do the same thing here. Like so. And now, to add to that sense of light, I'm going to add some yellow into this area. And you see, I'm not getting rid of the green, but I am warming the yellow up, and I'm the green up, and I'm brightening it up, like so. Now, to create a little more depth with this, typically they say that warmer colors look closer and cooler colors look distant. But the problem is with that theory and this drawing is that goes against what my light source dictates in the drawing. If I want to make part of the road look closer to me, I could leave it darker and add a touch of red to that gray, and maybe even a touch of brown, which warms up the red or is warmed up by the red. Even a touch of orange here. I could play with that. But then what I am going to do, for sure, is to take a little blue down here along this edge and enrich the darkness of that. Okay. And I'm actually going to golden up part of the road here too. And I'm kind of experimenting a little bit, but I want the road to appear as if it's glowing. Now, once I've done all of this looks pretty random and pretty, what are you doing? I go back over it with the black lightly again. And those colors that I put in, they don't disappear. They just sort of blend in. Okay. The darkest darks against the brightest brights are going to be nearby. Okay, so you can still see, I want to keep going here, that even though I've gotten darker with this, I'm taking it one layer at a time, and these hints of orange and red and brown and yellow really kind of add some depth to the surface of the road. And I'm still keeping my stroke, my mark making horizontal. And now let's say, okay, I've got a light source coming into this area here, but the building is going to cast a shadow on the ground. Shadows are typically cooler and darker. So first I'm going to hit it with blue again, and I'm going to decide, maybe my road is, partly catching that shadow. So I'm going to use the same color, blue, on the road as I do on the ground. Like that. Okay. I think the trick with crayon is that you keep it fairly light-handed at first, and you kind of safely determine, how much you can do. As far as this is a lot of depth already, as far as creating depth, as far as texturizing. And the thing is, let's say I want this to look like grass. I can come in and start making marks that imitate the blades of grass right on top of this. Now these marks are vertical. And they go in, if you're light-handed enough with the rest of it, they go in right on top of this, the horizontal marks that represent your ground. Now the thing is, if I want a little more touch of reality, I might go in and add some touches of brown here and there in those white spaces that are showing through. That's one thing about crayon. It doesn't easily smear because it is wax-based. Wax is a very stout binder, and it also resists moisture. So if you're ever using watercolor and you want to do a resist painting, crayon is really handy for the resist part. And as I touch it with brown, just randomly choosing different spots and places where dirt might show, maybe along the foundation here, it starts to really take on some life and depth. No pun intended. Okay, so I think that'll do for this one. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm just kind of spitballing here, brainstorming a little bit about how you might, depending on what you want to do, create a mood. But definitely think in terms of, instead of just filling the space with one flat color, think in terms of layering your colors and have fun.